Hi, it's Miss Landis here, and today I'm going to be reviewing how to turn an improper fraction into a mixed number. Now you might be thinking to yourself, what is an improper fraction? So the way that improper fractions are defined is just that the fraction part on top, the numerator, is greater than the denominator. So since 16 is greater than 12, which is the denominator, we know that this fraction is bigger than 1. It is a fraction that is greater than 1. And we'll get back to that in just a moment. We're turning improper fractions into mixed numbers. So what is a mixed number? Well, a mixed number is consisting of a whole number and a fraction part. So in 2 3/4, the 3/4 is the fraction, and the 2 is the whole number. So mixed numbers are a mixture of a fraction part and a whole number. Now when we have a fraction that is greater than 1, we like to decompose that fraction in order to create a mixed number. So I am going to review how to do that. So we'll take that fraction that we put up earlier, 16/12. We know that 16/12 is a fraction that's greater than 1 because its numerator is greater than the denominator. So since it's an improper fraction, we are going to first decompose it, which means to break it down. And when we break it down, we are going to break it into a whole, so one whole, plus whatever fraction is left over to add to our whole number and create a mixed number. So the first step is to create one whole. So in order to create one whole, we need to look at our denominator. Our denominator is a 12. So in order for us to create a whole, we need to have 12 on top and 12 on the bottom. That would be equal to 1. Then we need to think about what is left over of the fraction. So when we're decomposing it, what can I add to 12/12 in order to have 16/12 of my fraction? I know that 12 has to be the denominator because our denominator is a 12. It needs to remain 12. How many 12ths could I add to 12/12 to give me 16/12? Well, 12 plus 4 is 16. So I know that 12/12 plus 4/12 would give me 16/12. Now I take my 12/12, which is the whole number of 1, and I stick my leftover fraction part next to it to create my mixed number. So 16/12 is equivalent to 1 4/12, and this is now a mixed number. And we can take a look at another example too. So let's say we had a fraction of 22/8. Well, I know that 22/8 is greater than 1 because thinking about 8 as our denominator, 8/8 is equal to 1. So if our numerator is greater than 8, this fraction is definitely bigger than 1. So we can turn it into a mixed number by breaking it down. So first step, create one whole. And I'll keep writing out my steps so you can see them. Create one whole. And as you'll see with this fraction, sometimes you can create more than one whole. So we'll just build on that. I'll take 8/8, which is equal to one whole, plus what's left over. Well, the amount that's left over could give me another one whole, because I know that 8 plus 8 equals 16, and 16 is still less than 22. So there's still more of that fraction to work with. So I can take away another 8/8. Now I have 16/8. Well, that's still less than 22, so what would be left over? In my head, I'm thinking, can I create another whole? If I added 8/8 to this, well, 8 times 3 is 24. That's bigger than our fraction of 22/8. So I can't make another whole, but what is left over for me to add to it? Well, 8 plus 8 is 16, and you can count up from 16 to 22. So if I counted up from 16 to 22, I would get 6/8. And this is 22/8 decomposed into one whole plus one whole plus 6/8 left over. 8/8 is equal to 1. So this 8/8 is also equal to 1. So we have a fraction that's equal to 1, a fraction that's equal to another one whole, and then 6/8 left over. 1 plus 1 gives us 2, and our remaining fraction part is 6/8. So that would be our mixed number. I'll show one more example where sometimes we might be able to create a whole number. So let's say we were working with the fraction 21/7. In 21/7, the first thing I want to do is look at my numerator. It's bigger than the denominator, so I can go with my first step of creating a mixed number. So we're going to create a mixed number. Create a mixed number. Step 1, decompose the fraction to create one whole. Create a whole. What is our denominator? It's a 7. So to create one whole, what do I need to have up top? A 7. And there's my first one whole. Well, all of our numerators need to add up to 21. I can create another 7/7 in my decomposition of this fraction because 7 plus 7 is 14. Well, if you know your 7's facts, you know that 7 times 3 is 21. So I can have another 7/7. 7 plus 7 is 14. And 7 plus 14 is 21. Since all of these add up to 21/7, we have one whole, two wholes, three wholes. So instead of creating a mixed number, I actually created a whole number. There is no fraction part here. So that might happen sometimes. You might be able to create a whole number instead of a mixed number. So it's important to be aware of that may happen, especially a trick is to look at the denominator. If the numerator is a multiple of the denominator, you'll create a whole number. So if you know your multiplication facts, you could think in your head, what times 7 gives me 21? Well, 7 times 3 equals 21, so 3 is the whole number that I can create instead of this fraction. So the most important thing to remember when you are decomposing these fractions to create mixed numbers is to just add up your numerators. I'll show one more quick example, and maybe you can solve it at home or in school. If we show this video, then you can try it on your communicators. So 18 fifths. Let's see if we can turn that fraction, which is greater than 1, into a mixed number.